Absolute nightmare fuel for the Lady Vols. A worst case scenario comes to life in the bottom of the 7th inning as the Oklahoma Sooners walk it off against the Lady Vols in the opening day of the Women's College World Series. A 3-run home run by Ella Parker walks it off for the Oklahoma Sooners, and you look away for one too many pitches, you take too long to blink, and somehow this game is inside out, upside down, and you just feel that the team, in a way, more so gets sucker punched than gut punched in that moment because of the fashion in which it happened. And Ella Parker, who was probably the only hitter for the Oklahoma Sooners that was productive on the afternoon, ends up with the final dagger against Carlin Pickens. She had a solo home run in the beginning of the game to get the Oklahoma Sooners on the board, and then gets the last lap at the end of the game after getting 2 straight strikeouts against Pickens through her middle at-bats. Even more impressively for Pickens entering this game, when you look to the 3-game series that the two opponents had in the regular season, Ella Parker was 0 of 6 in plate appearances against Pickens, and then 2 of 4 today with the biggest swings and biggest hits probably of her career. Entering this game, Carlin Pickens had only given up like 7 home runs. She gives up 2 in one game and to one batter, and it's one that ends the game. Everyone probably is wondering how you don't walk Ella Parker in that situation. And Karen Weekly was asked if there was any consideration to do just that. And she said, no, not really. You get runners in scoring position if you walk her, but behind her was a freshman. But then you go to before her, and this is where we'll hear like Monica Abbott. She got online a little bit and was maybe saying something that a lot of us were thinking too. You look to Pickering, who was at the plate and was able to lace one up the center field to get runners on the corner. She was 0 of 3 before that hit that she got there that just got through a couple of diving Lady Vols. She says online, she says, surprised that there wasn't a timeout or conversation on the pitching around the only athlete that looked good at the plate. Of course, talking about Ella Parker. You probably could sense that if there was a moment for that to have happened, to maybe reset, recalm, and get everybody back in check, because you had a narrow lead against an Oklahoma team that, like we said in our pregame report, they don't need any help to beat you. And they were making uncharacteristic mistakes, and they got down early, mentally and emotionally because of how great the Lady Vols looked to start the game. So you wonder why there wasn't a meeting in the circle. You could go even before that, and Monica Abbott, too, the Lady Vols legend, says the biggest no-no is walking the leadoff hitter in the bottom of the 7th. Well, that's exactly what they did. Carlin Pickens only gave up 4 walks, and they came back to haunt her in that bottom frame. So you just get a little surprised with how that was there. Karen Weekly describes the game as a gut punch, and you just don't have any time to feel sorry for yourself. And maybe you could look to that final at bat. How do you not walk her? Where is the meeting in the circle? How does this all happen? It's all down to coaching. Well, you could go to the top of that inning where they had the bases loaded, and you have your home run leader in Sophia Nugent, who transferred from Oklahoma, at the dish, and there's just 1 out on the board with the bases loaded, and she hits herself into a double play. It was, I think, the 3rd double play of the game for the Oklahoma Sooners, and able to get in 1 or 2 runs. Of course, you're not trying to hit yourself into a double play, but it's not all just in that one finite scenario. Now, of course, does, leaving bases stranded change your coaching situations in the bottom of the 7th? Do you coach differently knowing that you didn't get any of those runners in the top of the frame? Yeah, probably. But as the game went on, if you look to the very beginning of the game, maybe continuing to wave Laura Mueller in instead of halting her when she's about halfway down the left field line trying to get home after an opposite field kind of hit, or over in the opposite field gap, long throw to try and get to home. Do you want to maybe try and bring her home? Does that give you a bit of extra cushion that maybe allows you mentally to want to walk in Ella Parker, knowing that that loads the bases and you have 2 outs, but now you have a little bit more of a cushion? There were certainly other things that the Lady Vols could have done throughout this game to capitalize when the Oklahoma Sooners were a little bit down on themselves. Carlin Pickens just looked really dejected in the dugout after the game. She's such a competitor, and she was absolutely wheeling and dealing in this game. There's only about 5 or 6 times that the Oklahoma Sooners had been struck out more than 6 times in a single game. Well, Carlin Pickens, I believe, she got to 8 in this game. Their worst is 9 strikeouts in a game. She gave up 4 walks. Of course, the last one came back to haunt her in that moment. but you could see how much of a competitor she was, because every time that they got a walk, they're slamming, Gronk spiking their bat, either in the batter's box or on their walk to first base. And you could just see Carlin looking over at them, and she is such a fierce competitor in that instance, because then she goes and strikes out the next two, or strikes out another one before Pickering is able to get on base in the final frame. So, Carrying the Weekly's main message is whoever's able to get over this type of loss first, whether them or Florida, who they'll meet tomorrow in an elimination game, probably ends up winning that game. But an absolute gut punch in Oklahoma City for the Lady Vols, and a game that they otherwise had almost total control of. And I guess that always goes back to the saying, it's not over until it's over. Just very puzzling, very shocking, and gutted kind of feeling that I'm sure the Lady Vols are feeling. We'll have much more on their hopeful longer run in the Women's College World Series coming up later this week, as well as the Knoxville Regional for Tennessee baseball. I'll talk to you guys later this week.